Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is a lover of puns and smashing together polar opposite interests into minimalistic designs, creating a laid-back beach vibe, little party hard rock and roll lifestyle with a dash of 80s and 90s pop culture all thrown in at the same time. Please welcome the creator and designer behind Dead Disco, Katie Fox. What's going on, Katie?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. So first question I always ask, what's your go-to lunch sandwich?
Oh, I'm a big food lover in general, so
Okay.
that's a hard one, but I would say grilled cheese.
All right.
Melted cheese is everything to me, so
Melted cheese is everything to me. I like that.
yes.
Okay. And if it's not a grilled cheese, what else? Like if you don't get a sandwich, what's your other, what's your other go-to usually?
I don't know if Nobody has it anymore, but they used to have a French dip with mac and cheese in it.
Yes.
And
The Johnny Mac.
the
Is what
Johnny
it was
Mac,
called.
yeah.
It's coming back. That sandwich is actually coming back. That's something that I've talked to the owners quite a bit about, asking them when that's coming back. I was like, I like my sandwich there, but when's the Johnny Mac coming back? So yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah.
It's definitely coming back. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Dead Disco. Tell people a little bit about how you came up with the idea in 2018 and how it kind of started, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. So that disco kind of organically formed itself. It just started out of pure boredom.
Okay.
Of making illustrations. And I kept thinking, I thought it was really funny to make puns with the discos thing, like get down and can you dig it? And I paralleled really well with like a graveyard and tombstones and like things like that. Like I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And I just kept making them. And then it kind of just evolved. I had so many. I was like, I feel like I should do something with these. So I actually opened up a Society 6 store first, because I didn't have like a lot of space for any type of overhead or anything like that. And I had that for a while. And then I love making tangible goods and things that I can actually hold. So I kind of just evolved to that and started making pins because I was already into like collecting them. So I kind of just meshed my hobby and my other interest and hobbies, and it formed from there.
Got it. So for how long before from 2018 doing like Society 6, which for those who don't know what that is, it's kind of like a printful. It's kind of like one of those things where you get to kind of have your design, be able to sell your design. They'll put it on other products, but at the same time, but it's like technically if you wanted one, you would have to buy one yourself, correct? Like if you wanted to do it, but it's a way for you to make a little money off of it. And it's a great way to start to kind of even see if there's traction, to see if it works and if people like it. And then that way, at least it's a nice way of doing it. I know a few people that have started that way and been doing it for a little while. So how long did you do that for before you actually said, you know what, I'm going to start making my own stickers and my own stuff and selling it on my own, the tangible side of it?
I would say probably a year. Like okay. I'm the tortoise, not the hare when it comes to doing things. So
okay. And that's not a bad thing, being the tortoise. I'll tell you that. Now, tell me a little bit about the name Dead Disco. I know you get this a lot, and I kind of want to talk about some of these things because I just like I said in the intro, like you definitely have a lot of polar opposites, a lot of different things being smashed together. Which I love, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure you get asked a lot of questions like, why is it called Dead Disco? So give me a little bit of a rundown on how you came across or came up with the idea of doing Dead Disco or the name Dead Disco.
Yeah. So online handle, my handle online's always been Dead Like Disco. I've always been infatuated with disco. Okay. Like in Studio 54 and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I started making those puns with the discos thing. And I was just like, let me just like take out the like and like smash it down to make it more clean. Okay. Yeah.
So you actually, and I love that. I love the fact that you kind of didn't overthink it, because I will tell you, like, I overthought my brand name, and my brand name is like super simple. It's like Deli
Mhm,
Fresh Threads. And
mhm.
I, for a long time, I had like, it took me 6 months to come up with the name, even though at the end it's like, wow, that's like, how obvious is that? But it was because I overthought it sometimes. Sometimes what happens is you get stuck inside your head.
Oh yeah.
And you can't, you just keep spinning. So I definitely get that. So that's awesome. Okay. I've always was kind of curious about that, with
Yeah.
that aspect of it. Where, so a lot of it, like, how do you go about with like your, for like your designs? Tell people a little bit about like how you go through your process. Like, how do you I guess, what's your creative process or inspiration when you're kind of coming up with these? Because obviously you and I like puns. So like, do you write them down? What do you like, you kind of go backwards, forwards, like how, like, you think of a pun and then kind of go forwards, or like, or how do you go through the process?
Um, I would say it kind of varies a little bit. Sometimes there's like some sort of like wording I know I want to use, but I don't know what it's going to look like yet.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I just have a visual of something or like a sketch I already did, and I'm like, oh, what would work with this? Like doing this wording for it. Oh, that totally works together. I'm kind of heavily influenced by a lot of different things. I've done music related pins and designs. I've done like movie and particularly like 90s movies and part like pop culture type stuff
Yep.
there, which obviously I'm heavily influenced by that, that
Yeah.
stuff. Um, I don't know. I'm all over the place. I'm really scattered. So that's
That
kind of how my designs come all over the place and are polar opposite because I'm like, I'm just all over the board
yeah.
already. So
What and so now, how do you, and I always like to ask this when it comes to the creative folks, like, how do you keep it all? Like, do you have like a notebook, a journal on your phone, like when you're doodling, or doing designs and stuff like that? Like, where do you kind of keep it all? Because obviously if you're scattered and you're all over the place, there's got to be a place where you're kind of like funneling it somehow or squishing it all into,
Mhm.
to kind of keep all in place.
um, I'm big on like pen and paper
Yeah.
sort of thing. So I I try to use journals, but I find them confining for some reason. So
Okay.
I tend to use recycled paper
Yeah.
and just fold it in half, and I just keep stacks of paper on my desk in my office and stuff. It's like I have lots of just random sketches and like notes and stuff like that. It's still within the chaotic world I function
Yeah,
in.
no, I like it. I totally get it. Can you tell folks a little bit? I know you've been really good at, one of the things that I've noticed on social is that you've been really good at trying to just trying to get information from, from your community, from like everything from like, hey, what do you like? Would you like, like, I've seen like everything from which ghost do you like, and you had like a post where you had a bunch of your different ghosts in different shapes and sizes, and you were like, which one do you like better? And then you'll also go back and you'll ask the same thing, like, hey, like, what other markets do you want to see me at? How important is that for you to get that feedback? And I guess, yeah, let's start with that. Like, how important is it for you to get that feedback, when they actually do reply back? Because sometimes that's the other part, we don't hear them back. uh
Yeah, I've definitely put some things out there, and it's like, hello,
Crickets.
hello,
Yeah.
hello. Like, is anyone there?
Yeah,
Uh,
I totally get that. I totally get that. But when you do get it, what do you,
mhm.
how does that, obviously it makes you feel good, but like, what do tell me a little bit about that process, like about trying to get them involved, to get your customers or your community involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I fun like why I'm even here, because there's a customer base, they like my stuff. I'm like, I want to know, what do you guys want?
Yeah.
Like, I utilize that a lot because um I'm always questioning things, and I'm like, or I have too many ideas, and I'm like, I need to like narrow this down. Like, so it's just like a good bouncing board. So instead of having I'll ask my friends and family and stuff, but I'm like, why not go right to the source? What do you guys want?
Yeah. No, I get it. What is your family pretty good? I mean, obviously, I know your boyfriend, right? Your boyfriend or husband? I always like,
Husband,
okay, I
yeah,
wasn't sure. So
yeah.
I know your husband, he's very artistic and creative as
Mhm.
well. So I know that that's always a positive to have that as a sounding board. Um, do you feel sometimes that you have like, because I'll be honest, like I have folks in my circle where my family, you know, my wife and kid don't wear my clothes. Like they don't wear any of my stuff. Like they don't really like, so they're like, oh yeah, it's cute.
Mhm.
Or yeah. So like I don't really have anyone. So I totally understand that aspect of when you're trying to create something, especially when it's like in many ways like dead disco is like it's like your world, it's in your brain, it's like your little universe that you've created. um and I feel like sometimes when you're niche or when you're like that, it becomes difficult sometimes to have that sounding board of like, what is it that you want or like. Do you feel that way? I mean, or does it, or do you feel like you have a pretty decent inner circle where they can kind of basically give you that insight aside from the customers, obviously giving you feedback?
Um, I prefer the customer feedback if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah.
My husband definitely is a good, like, I always show him everything and be like, do you like that? And sometimes he's like, no, I'm like, well, I'm going to do it anyways, sort of thing. Because we are similar in a lot of ways, but we are also very different. So sometimes, uh, we have definitely different opinions on things sometimes.
Yeah. No, I totally
So,
get that.
yeah.
Totally get that. What would you say is your favorite part about having your brand?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Well, there's so many parts. I just love the community aspect part of it, like meeting you, becoming friends with you and other makers, and then like the customers and becoming friends with them. It's it's great. Like I wasn't expecting that when I started this, and that's I think my favorite part is like I just found this community of people that are like like-minded or doing similar things or doing totally different sort of things, but like we like still have like this commonality sort of
Yeah.
thing happening.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I totally I that's one of my favorite parts. And that's one of the actually one of the reasons why I like doing my podcast is because I want to be able to like highlight those people, because I just think that you meet so many amazing small brands and businesses doing different things, and even though we're all like at a market together, and we all have different perspectives or different ideas and products, but it's still, everyone's got an amazing story. So
Mhm.
I totally agree with that. What would you say has been the hardest part for you?
Oh, the business side of things. Like I'm like a creative type of person, so like the like taxes and like figuring out the business plans and like trying to like have like people have like business strategies and like social media and like are all very strategic. I'm definitely not, like I'm working on it. I'm trying, but it's definitely not the part that I'm in for doing.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I think the hardest part sometimes when you're the creative is the how do you blend it or find the time to do all the things.
Yeah.
And I think that's always the difficult part, because obviously it's easier as you get bigger, because in that sense, because then you can have other people delegate it to other people to be like, oh well, I have an accountant and I have this
Yeah.
to do those things. But when it's just you and you're just trying to build something, it's definitely makes it a lot harder to kind of go that route. So I definitely I feel you. I definitely
Yeah.
feel you. That's to me, I think definitely is my the hardest part of it, is that whole balance of how do I balance everything.
Yeah.
Is definitely the hard part. What do you since you are super creative and you're always coming up with ideas, and I know that
Mhm.
even though you may have them written down, sometimes I feel like I have ideas and I write them down and I have them in journals, and I have them on all different places. I also feel sometimes that I hit like a creative rut where I kind of almost like a not a right, I guess a creative block where I don't have like I don't know, I'm like I kind of feel like I need like an extra oomph or an extra like, oh yeah, like I'm really excited about making this, spending money to get this made type of
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Can we talk about that? Like how do you how do you go across, like how do you deal with that when you have that situation? Because like I have a whole stack of stuff that I could like literally take to a printer, but I've like literally have been like on a pause of just like, maybe I'll wait a little bit longer, and like and I don't know why, but it's just like I'm just waiting. And so like and it's like, and then some other times I don't may not have any ideas, and I'm just like, well, what the hell do I make? Like, what's my next thing to make? Even though I have like a book of ideas, but none of them actually, like stand out. Like, how do you go
Yeah.
through that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been dealing with that recently. So yeah, I'm right
Okay.
in like trying to get out of it a
Yeah.
little bit right now. So I don't know if I'm like an expert by any means on that, but
I don't need, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't talk about. And so like, it's one of those
mhm,
where I think like I think I really appreciate your honesty. Cause like, I'll like, you and I will message each other. And
mhm.
like, and that's one thing that I appreciate, is because we both, like, I have no facade whatsoever of like, hey guys, I'm booming. Like I have no problem being like realistic and going, I don't know. I'm like, I have no idea. What do you want? Like, what is it that you want? And then,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm kind of curious, like kind of someone else kind of in the growing aspect of it. Like, how do you deal with it, or how do you go through it of trying to figure out like, okay, this is what I want to do, or, hey, I'm kind of in a creative rut. How do I shake myself out of it and get back into doing like, coming up with more new ideas or more ideas?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So definitely I think part of why I do so many polls is like when I feel like I'm stuck, I'm like, well, what do you what does the community want? What do you guys want? Like
Yeah.
give me somewhere to start at
Yeah.
sort of thing. But also like sometimes I think it's okay, it's part of like the creative process. You're gonna get art blocks, and maybe that's your way of like your body or your brain telling you like, hey, maybe it's time to take a break for a minute. Like, so I'm sometimes I'll just be like, okay, I gotta ride this wave of like, I don't know what I want to do sort of thing. And just like maybe work on some little things, go back to like old ideas that, are half done and stuff like that. And just kind of like sometimes you got to do like the fake it till you make it sort of like, but like just creative block me doing it. Like just be like, I'm just going to keep doing some motions of like, I'm going to work on this illustration I haven't touched in 6 months and see if maybe that inspires me. Or um one of my favorite tricks to do is take a shower, take a long, hot shower.
Okay.
That's what I always tell people when they're like, well, how do you come? I'm like, for some reason, some of my best ideas have come when I was in the shower, wasn't thinking about it. And it just pops in your head and you're like, that's it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah,
So,
out of
yeah.
curiosity, when you do that, because that happens to me quite often,
Mhm.
and then also late at night. And when it happens, is it usually? I'm just kind of curious. Does it happen like when you do? I'm just kind of curious. Timing of day. Are you like? Does it happen when you take like in the shower in the morning, or is it usually a shower in the evening, or it just doesn't matter? It's usually just take a shower, because it happens to me when it's like 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm taking a shower to get ready to go to work, and all
Mhm.
of a sudden this idea pops in my head, and I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, I actually was on a podcast with a guy, and I totally forgot his name, but he actually bought waterproof paper, and he actually has paper in the shower, so when he has ideas he can write it. And I didn't even know it existed, but it's like paper.
Oh,
He like literally writes it, so that he doesn't lose it, when he comes when it enters his mind in the shower, because that was the same thing. He would take a shower, and that's when the ideas would come in his head.
yeah.
And I think maybe it's the fact of like the idea that you're not listening to anything. It's just like the kind of like that calming sound of the water, and you're
Mhm.
you're kind of just like in your own little zen, little like, hole or zen. Which, that's a great recommendation. I've never even thought of that as being, because you're right, that's usually kind of when I do get some wacky ideas, usually when I'm in the shower,
Yeah.
which, is odd, but at least it's good to know that I'm not the only one that has it as well, which is great. Um, what advice, I guess, what advice would you give to someone who's like starting out, who's like wanting to basically start out something and is not sure what to do, or maybe just kind of like is on the fence, because their idea is maybe a little different, or just in general they're just like not sure what the best step would be. What advice would you give them, based on what you've experienced in the last few years in business?
Um, just like people are always saying like dive in and stuff, but like just take a baby step, like just do a little thing, see how that goes. Like, maybe just like if you want to make a pin, like just make the one and see how that goes and see how if you enjoy the process of making the pin and designing it and working with your manufacturer and like do you want to do that again? Like
Yeah.
or like or even just do like a sticker design or a couple sticker designs. Like I started out with like a couple stickers and a couple pins and like my little booth, like I started doing things and I was like I got nothing. It's like you go over to my table and it's like there's not much there, but like I did it, I started it, I didn't have a lot going, but
Yeah.
like it was a starting point and I was like I kind of enjoy this, so maybe I'll do some more of it, like.
Exactly. I actually was going to ask you, like, do you sometimes some ideas start off as like a sticker just because of like the price point being the easier route to go? And then from there, if it does really well, you're like, oh, maybe I'll make this into an enamel pin, or do some things automatically. You're like, no, has to be an enamel pin. And because you're right, they're like, those are like low cost spots that kind of do give you, it kind of gives you gratification, but it also tests out a concept, because a lot of
Mhm,
people want to support you, and then that's a great way of like, oh, I'll buy a sticker, but they also love it because they love the design, so they kind of like,
mhm.
oh, which is always a great one.
Yeah, I've done a lot of things that way. I definitely always recommend like stickers. Stickers are a low cost, easy way to like gauge interest on things. Like I have stickers that I haven't sold one of. I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was brilliant, but like no one else did. But
Yeah,
I didn't invest too much into it. And I'm like, that's fine.
yeah,
Sometimes I do go straight to a pin, but if I like really just like into the design and I'm like, oh, I know this is going to be good, like this will work, like sort of thing. But it's definitely, but I think that comes from like experience of like doing it for a couple of years and stuff, like that. It's very much, I think, I personally run my business like it's an experiment.
okay,
So this is a good way to put it. Like I'm just trying different things. I'll try different products, like, but like I stick to low quantities just to kind of test the waters and see what works, what doesn't work, what people are into. I've taken things that were patches and made them into stickers because someone made a comment. I've done vice versa with that. Like it's very much I feed off of what people tell me.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, I get that. And I think that's great. I like the idea of calling it that, like an experiment of trying to just figure out, okay, maybe I'll try this time, or do that. One thing that I think is awesome is that you guys actually print your own shirts, right?
Mhm,
As one of the big things, which obviously helps, because if, and like in my world, when I get a shirt printed, I literally go to my printer, they print it, I buy a bunch of shirts and I do everything. And then sometimes I'm kind of like, if it's a dud, I'm done. In your particular case, the beauty of you being able to screen print your own is that you can do a small run of it, see how
mhm.
it goes, and then obviously test, like you said, experiment, and test your market, and then from there being able to go, and then if that goes well, then you obviously can make more, or then do other ideas with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's definitely why we tend to why we screen print in-house, because then that gives us a chance to like see what's working, what's not working. And it's a small little setup. So
Yeah.
it works for us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. I think that's something that, I think is very awesome that you guys went that route, and I think I always appreciate seeing when brands do that, just because of the fact that obviously it is hard, because it's a lot of hard work. I mean, you're putting in extra time to get those things done. But at the same time, it does provide you a little bit more wiggle room and more cost, it's more cost effective
Mhm.
at the end of the day, especially if it's something that you enjoy doing. I don't enjoy doing screen printing. I don't think I would. Therefore, I know that I'm never going to. And I'd rather, figure out a cheaper or figure out other ways of doing it. So I definitely understand, but that's why I appreciate when I see people like you, just okay, Matt, like he does that. He
Mhm.
screen prints his own stuff. And it's always impressive to see, people that do that, especially when you do a good job. Like I'm actually wearing one of your shirts right now. So,
Yeah.
and it's great. What are 3 tips that you think you would give yourself if you were starting back again? Like, let's say you're talking to Katie, Katie now is talking to Katie of the future, and you're like, hey, and she comes up to you and goes, hey, I want to start my own thing. What are 3 things that you would tell her, like, that they must, they're like, kind of like, hey, I need to tell you these 3 things in order to help you for the future?
Um, to not be scared.
Okay.
I was very scared to start it. Like I got my pins and stuff in, and I sat on them for 3 months before I like officially even made like an Instagram post saying like I'll have these soon. I was very nervous about a lot of like doing the first like market I did and everything like that. Like you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's not scary.
I love it. Okay.
um uh the second thing would be um that you'll learn with time, like that things will come, like you'll get bigger, like you'll have more product. Like it's just a slow moving thing, because I kept comparing myself. Like that would be my third one, to like don't compare your journey to someone else's, because
Yeah.
it's not going to be the same. And I
Yeah.
got trapped in that for a little bit and was like, oh my God, like that person has so much more followers, they're selling more than me, like and but like
Yep.
now I'm just like, I don't care what they're doing, like that's awesome, they're
Yeah.
doing well, like
Yeah.
that's cool. I
Yeah.
don't, but that's their thing path, that's not mine.
No, I get it. I totally get it. And I totally agree with all those. I think we get stuck in our heads for like that right opportunities. We get, and then we always want to go bigger, and it's okay to start small and build from
Mhm.
there. And then, yeah, totally the spot of like the Instagram. I call it like the like it's like that whole thing, like when you're looking at someone else's Instagram and it's like the Instagram versus reality.
Mhm.
Like we have no idea like their real, you don't know the other person's reality. And yeah, sometimes obviously you can use that as like inspiration in the sense of like, well, I'm like, hey, they're doing great, I want to do great too. But at the same time, it can get to you as well if you and I think I sometimes tell myself, or at least from what I've been researching now, is if I'm at that point where it's starting to bother me or affect me, and sometimes it does, I do look
Mhm.
at other brands, and even though I'm happy for them, I'm like, man, I'm like, what the hell? What am I doing wrong? What the hell's happening? I then at that point, I'm starting to try to come up with the idea that, you know what? You're spending way too much time on scrolling and looking for you to be able to like put your head down and just go. Like
Mhm.
get it working, because obviously you're spending too much time, not in the sense of like it not being able to admire. I think you should admire other brands that are doing great things, and give them props and love and little hearts and comments. But I think sometimes when we spend so much time, then you almost go down a rabbit hole of looking, and then it kind of takes a toll on you. And so to me, I think that's something that I totally agree on. It's like, just get working.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, it's definitely, yeah, it took me a little bit to learn the difference between like appreciating other brands and where they're at and like happy for them, and then just going down like a black hole of like, oh my God, I'm never going to get there or anything
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's, yeah, it's a good, it's, yeah, it takes a while.
It does. And I mean, and you've been doing this for a while now, so like, yeah, it's definitely one of those. And I love how you started off in the beginning, like you're kind of saying like you're a tortoise. Like the tortoise does win at the end of
Mhm.
this whole thing. And I think the hardest part for us sometimes is we tend to forget or not think about the whole we kind of look at it in like short term. We want like that short term instant gratification. And sometimes we forget the long journey that maybe it takes to get there, and how, and I specifically say that to myself when it comes to the internet, and like how no one, I'm like, I'm like, just because I think these people are seeing my stuff, there's like millions of other people that have no idea of who I am, and I'm new to them. And so sometimes it's okay to reiterate or post certain things that you've already posted, maybe like 2-3 months ago. It's okay to post them again because they maybe never saw it, because of an algorithm or whatever. So yeah, I think that's definitely a tough one, right?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. How can people tell people how they can follow you and how they can support you? And then I'm going to ask a quick question about like kind of like events and things like that. But how can people follow you and support you?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's deaddisco.co. And I believe it's the same on my Facebook. I don't post a lot on there though. And then my website, dead-disco.com.
Yep.
Is my storefront. Yeah.
Yep. Isn't there like a song? Is there a band? Is it a band or a song that's called Dead Disco?
It's both.
Okay.
There's a band that's like a small indie band that was called Dead Disco, and then Dead Disco is the name of a metric song. So
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was always kind of curious about that. What I know we're in that season now where it's like how do you go about looking for events and figuring out events? I know you do a really good job at, once again, asking community about it, but is there anything that you look into or look for, or where do you search to kind of see like, hey, maybe I can put my product here, or hey, this would be a good event for me? Where are you kind of looking or researching on, besides obviously Google? Like, is there anything that you're doing special, or searches that you're doing that might help someone else be able to find, maybe a possible event that they can do or create or sell at?
Yeah, I've been trying to focus in onto my niche areas. So like punk rock flea markets, and then like spooky events, like around like fall and stuff. That's like, I get really into that season of trying to find different markets, because that's my big season for me. Also, yeah, or like Spooky Empire, I'm looking into doing that in the fall and stuff like that. But it's a lot of just figuring out the keywords you're looking for of what your niche is in, because sometimes it might not be exactly the exact same words you would use, but it like like I refer to myself as like beachy rock and roll vibes, but like punk rock fleas are definitely aligned with that kind of a niche, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And it's true. I mean, I know you said you did really well. You've done really well at some of those. And I could see like a lot of the spooky and like all that stuff, like, especially since you have some really fun graphics and images and everything that I think that kind of work really well during that time, especially in the fall and stuff like that. So yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah. I'm always looking. I'm always trying to figure out the right where to go and try new places. I'm actually going to be trying a new event, a new venue coming up, just because I wanted to do like an indoor one, and I just kind of wanted to see what I can do. So we'll talk as I see, depending on how it goes. But it's something that I just kind of wanted to hit new areas or new places that I've never been to before. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now. So we'll see. We shall see. Katie, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. I got a little bit left for my lunch break, so I just want to tell everyone and kind of close up the show. That's our show for today. Thank you so much for Katie Fox of Dead Disco for being on and having lunch with me. Definitely make sure to check out her stuff. If you're in Orlando, Central Florida, definitely go and look. You'll probably see her at a market. Heck, we both may be at the same market, but if not, definitely go check her out. You could definitely check out her inventory and all her great stuff at dead-disco.com. If you want to support, definitely make sure to subscribe to my show. If you liked it, tell your friends. If you want to come and support me, check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads, and do some shopping and obviously spread the word. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, guys.